we're not used to it, so we lose our heads when it happens. I don't know if you've been on the Hi guys, we're here for Top 4 while we're discussing the shift in personality of most Southern Californians as rain hits the streets for us. We found out a lot of people don't know how to drive, and also their freeways don't drain water properly at all. It's like going on a water ride at any amusement park.
Yeah, I'm a native New Englander, so I just don't get it. I just carry on with my life.
You just teach us the ways, yeah.
Sure, I will.
But actually, you know what? Speaking of rain, we're probably going to see some in this upcoming top 4 match.
I think we're definitely going to see some, right?
Yeah, some rain and some sand. So your 2 favorite things here from Southern California: sand in the desert and rain from whenever the clouds decide to strike us with some of that. As Hayley and Brian are already in team selection process. You're actually gonna see Brian's team on your. You've seen both of them already here on stream, but Brian, once again with that Salamence, Mimikyu, Iron Bundle, Pelipper, King Gambit, and Breloom. I'm excited for the Breloom again, and Hayley with that Iron Hands, Pelipper, Tyranitar, Lycanroc, Grimmsnarl, and Palafin. So, double things I'm excited for about. Maybe we'll see the Iron Bundle. Who knows?
I feel like we should. I mean, I think Iron Bundle is probably pretty good into this matchup. But it's already kind of building a reputation for itself about how what happens if you miss Hydro Pump, right? Which is like a really scary prospect, especially because you'd want to be clicking Hydro Pump, you know, somewhat frequently, I guess, if you were to bring it into this matchup, right? As you'd want to try and catch Tyranitar out of sand or something like that and hit it with a Hydro Pump. So missing that would be pretty tragic, yes. But it's definitely an option. At some point in the format for sure, but we've seen that Breloom already do a ton of work on stream, and I think that's really good into some of this sand stuff, although you kind of have to give up your sash potentially when Tyranitar comes onto the field. But here leads, this is a really good Intimidate lead, and I think potentially a situation where you might think about kind of cycling Salamence out.
Wow, yeah, so actually Grimmsnarl and Iron Hands' lead of choice as Quark Drive is going to activate thanks to that booster energy, but the Intimidate from the Salamence on Brian's side is going to negate that just a little bit. Breloom and Salamence, a combination which we saw earlier from Brian. Honestly, the Spore is sort of unmatched in the situation, really. Spore is just sort of all around just been a pain since the dawn of of its inception, honestly.
Yeah, and then he also has that Terra Ghost option that he flexed on stream earlier, where you can just block Fake Out and put the Fake Out user to sleep, which is a pretty smart option. And Salamence is going to save us Intimidate for later, which I think is super smart given the strong physical attackers that Hayley's packing on her team.
Now you can't Fake Out both in case this Breloom decides to go for that Terra typing right here, which actually we're going to see that Terra type. Breloom going to be like, hey, I would like to be just like Mimikyu, Roko, and Ghost here, as both of these Pokemon can no longer be faked out at all. Breloom just absolutely loves that. It's just like, I want to put things to sleep and you can't stop me. Not with, and especially not with those Iron Hands. As Iron Hands does try to go for that Fake Out, goes into that Breloom spot. Breloom's like, nope, can't touch this, as a light screen from Grimmsnarl is going to go up. It's something that most of us are used to seeing. So, you know, there's that.
Yeah, I think that it feels kind of good, one time to be able to Terra Ghost and block a Fake Out, but after that, it doesn't have as much value as potentially tearing, going for an offensive Terra type on another Pokemon, or even a defensive Terra type on another Pokemon, because you block Fake Out and then you're just kind of like a Ghost type, and you can play around that after the Fake Out is blocked. So I don't know, and I think it's smart here, right, is that he's going to generate a lot of momentum by putting everything to sleep. But
interesting choice.
I feel like if somebody was gonna block my Fake Out with a Terra Ghost, I wouldn't always feel awful about it, but for now I'm gonna feel kind of bad because both my Pokemon are asleep.
Yeah, Mimikyu's just getting it for your end to just go attack as Breloom shakes his tail, puts him to sleep. Sure, Grimmsnarl got that Reflect and that Light Stream up, not a big surprise coming from a Grimmsnarl at all, but honestly it's just kind of rough because now you have to play I'm just waiting for my Pokemon to wake up, and now it's just I have to take damage while this is happening. Play rough from Mimikyu, not quite enough to pick up the knockout here on the Iron Hands. Sure, you're going to lose some HP thanks to that Life Orb, but Breloom going to just easily pick up that knockout here on that Iron Hands. And because Grimmsnarl did set up the screens in the previous turn, it is going to have to take its necessary sleep turn now. So Grimmsnarl is going to have to worry about getting attacks next turn as well, right? You no longer have access to any sort of prankster sort of moves because you set up your screens already.
Yeah, and was really well played with the Breloom there, where Iron Hands didn't get to do literally anything. It faked out into a Ghost type and then went to sleep and then fainted. So that's what we like to see, especially on a team with multiple water types, right? Where Iron Hands is kind of sometimes one of the few things that's standing between those water types and like doing a whole bunch of damage to the rest of the team. And I think that's definitely the case for Hayley's team, where she is definitely scared of the Iron Bundle, right? But now Tyranitar's here. We know by looking at team sheets and from seeing on stream earlier that it is Terra Flying, which is probably something that it's going to want to be considering here, so it doesn't have to take a Mach Punch.
Yep, and there it is. That Terrestrial is here. So Tyranitar is going to grab a bunch of balloons, so many of them, to be able to get that flying type here. Actually, the question is how many balloons does it take to lift Tyranitar off the ground?
The answer is 4.
The answer is 1. It's just an air balloon.
That's true.
As Grimstyle is going to have to take a play ref here. It's going to get an attack drop too. Not that it really matters for Grimstyle. Sure, Mimikyu just constantly keeps losing its HP to Life Orb here. Breloom just like, it doesn't even matter about the Mach Punch. We're just going to put you to sleep because honestly, that's what I'm here for. Grimstyle is still going to sleep this turn, so maybe next turn might finally wake up, but I don't think it's going to live to really see that, as you know, it's Mimikyu can just keep attacking really into it, but everyone on this field is going to take residual damage now from that Sandstorm, and Breloom actually loses its Focus Sash because of it.
Yeah, I mean, you don't feel too bad about it at this point. And this is kind of like maybe one of the scary things about playing against Breloom, especially if you're running like a team that has a lot of like slow Pokemon, which Hayley does, where there's not really a good way to like offensively pressure it and stop it from just like putting all of your things to sleep. So she is probably going to have to think about pivoting to something that can maybe prevent that in game 2. Like Lycanroc is almost always going to be faster. I think maybe something like a Terragrass Pelipper might be an option for her, but I think right now she's just really being subjected to how oppressive sleep can be if you don't, like, you know, pack enough ways to try and deal with that.
Yeah, I mean, I feel so bad for like this Tyranitar, you know, it's just taking like damage after damage. This Mimikyu literally has only been taking damage from Life Orb and Sandstorm, which is the wildest part, and it's almost like
Still
a
has
half
its
health.
Disguise, yeah.
Yeah, so Disguise is still in its attack, it's still in the green, just barely so, and I mean, now nobody's gonna be taking damage from that Sandstorm thanks to the fact that Pelipper was the last Pokemon, so double Weather Setters that were in the back for Hayley. Oof.
Yeah, Pelipper's in an okay spot here, and then it's not like immediately being threatened with being knocked out, but it is just going to go to sleep. So this is kind of like, I don't know, Hayley's only option at really sneaking out of that one.
Ooh.
This one is to get, you know, some better sleep turns, and it's a little dicey at this point in the game given that there are still 2 Pokemon for Brian in the back. Pelipper is going to go to sleep, it's going to take its first turn, but Tyranitar can wake here, so maybe that's something.
Yeah, I mean, Mimikyu actually missed that play rough, so that damage for later on might actually... Nope, Tyranitar continues to fall asleep here. Pelipper takes that necessary sleep turn, like you said. Honestly, like, this Breloom, I hope it's got a good chiropractor, because it is carrying this match right now.
Yeah,
well, actually, I mean, to be fair, that Mimikyu is too, right? Like, you've only missed 1 play rough so far. So, honestly, both of these Pokemon are just doing a fantastic job of doing what they need to do together, which is put things to sleep and play rough. That's really, honestly, it. Like...
Yeah, and I think a double tap into Pelipper here, and then eventually you get to, I don't know, it's possible that given how the sleep turns are going that maybe this combination of Pokemon can just clean up the game, but I think eventually it's just going to be like Salamence comes in from the back, and it's going to intimidate Tyranitar, and it's going to get to basically do whatever it wants to like a flying type Tyranitar, so it's awake.
Yeah, Tyranitar goes for the assurance, is finally able to knock out this Breloom, but you know what, Breloom's like, hey, it doesn't even matter, I did everything that I needed to do, both of these Pokemon are like, well, I mean, Tyranitar's still, like, you know, in the green because it did manage to at least not get hit by 1 play rough, but honestly, between, like, the Pelipper staying asleep and then that Tyranitar being asleep for that long, Mimikyu's Disguise still is intact. Like, honestly, like, this Mimikyu is it's just been hurting itself, but it's hurt itself more than it's been hurt by other Pokemon at this point. So
yeah, so this is just like a continuation of clicking attacks. I think there's a world in which you could potentially just like switch Salamence out here and get another Intimidate onto Tyranitar. That's kind of opening you up to like a potential win from like a crit Rock Slide or something like that, and Mimikyu is really just going to sit here and continue quick attacks. It might finally have its Disguise busted here, even though it's at like, what, 40% health all of a sudden. But barring a crit, that should be a pretty comfortable survive for Salamence as it is. And then next turn you get to click Hurricane and play Rough again, and then
that's all she wrote.
That's all she wrote, especially with Light Screen wearing off there. So with a little help from sleep turns, this is going to be a pretty convincing win for Brian here. So I think Hayley is definitely already considering what the option to try and like stop that Breloom from just doing all these things, but you know she has some tools for it. in this like Terraflying Tyranitar is like a really good option into it if you get better sleep turns, because Sand will bust the Sash, and then you can hit it super effectively with an Assurance or with a Terra Blast, depending on what type it is. And then something like Lycanroc, I guess, probably seems pretty good to me, where you have the option to just kind of like be faster than it and hit it with Rock Slide or Close Combat or whatever this one happens to be running. So she's not without the tools to deal with it. It's just you know, finding the game plan that's going to work.
Yeah, and honestly, it's just kind of rough too, because like I think that Tyranitar took, like, usually there's a really high chance that you just wake up on sleep turn 3, right? And like I think she hit 4 of them, and then woke up on that like that last turn. So it's still kind of like a rough sort of position to be in, because RNG is definitely working against you in those moments, it feels like. But honestly, like that Breloom, like being able to see the reason why you have that Ghost Terra typing to just stop those fake outs and just let Breloom be like, I'm gonna click Spore. I think we saw 1 Bullet Seed that entire game from it. Maybe
I think it
2.
Bullet Seeded a couple times, I think.
Yeah, but like honestly,
Once everything was already asleep.
once we put things to sleep, so we clicked Spore more times than we clicked Bullet Seed. But honestly, like that's why you have like the archetype for it, right?
Yeah,
like,
and that's the thing, is it can just be really oppressive if you don't bring the correct tools for it. And I mean, Breloom, like when I've been playing, is not something that I've been game planning for, so I wouldn't have been shocked to be like having my whole team put to sleep by a Breloom. But yeah, there are definitely the tools for it. I think it starts with Tyranitar. You could potentially go to Lycanroc, but yeah.
Oh, there we are. Yeah, Tyranitar, Lycanroc, a combination that goes very well together. And Salamence and Breloom still hanging out together on this field. Breloom is just like, you know, it might be a little dicey, but we can still do what we might need to, as Sandstream from Tyranitar pops off after the Intimidate from Salamence. But Lycanroc is going to be extremely fast thanks to that Sand Rush ability that it does have.
Yeah, I think this is definitely better, right? Hayley has the opportunity to, I think probably at -1, Close Combat's not going to bring it to Sash. But you could just go for some Rock Slides. You know, that always feels pretty good when you're using a fast Rock Slide. You get the opportunity to be bailed out by any number of flinch opportunities and even crits because you're moving first. So yeah, I think this is definitely a better spot where it's not like immediately oppressive to be looking at Spore. But how she plays around it obviously is going to be relevant.
Alright, we are going to see that Terrastalizing here from Hayley. So Tyranitar going into that flying type Terrastalizing is going to be just a very nice spot for it. You know, just nice way to just at least negate a lot of like these super effective attacks that you will usually take from there, as Lycanroc goes for those Rock Slide, breaks the Sash and Breloom, does super effective damage on that Salamence, and remember, well, there's a flinch, there is a way. Salamence though is able to break through that, is going to get the Draco Meteor down into Lycanroc, proccing that Focus Sash there. On that great dog, and now Breloom is going to be free to move potentially. Oh, there it is. There's the flinch. That was actually absolutely something that you needed. As now Tyranitar is able to go. Oh my gosh, is able to go for a Rock Slide. However, the Sandstorm is going to knock out the Salamence on this turn. So Sandstorm, they're gonna knock out the Salamence for Hayley there, as Breloom also is gonna have to take some damage here. I mean, hey, you know what? That's probably about as good of a turn as you could have hoped for if you're Hayley.
Oh, for sure, it's the best turn you could have hoped for. I don't know, I think I would have liked a little more if that was a Terra Blast, because then you're just knocking out 2 Pokemon this turn. Because now you kind of leave yourself in a position where Lycanroc is kind of pinned by Mach Punch, which doesn't feel so great, whereas like Terra Blast would have just had the opportunity to knock it right out here.
Lycanroc going for an Endure here, as it is going to at least survive 1 turn. Shadow Sneak from Mimikyu going to go into that Lycanroc. That's one of those moves where at least, you know, you're able to hold on. Mimikyu going to take the damage from that Life Orb. The Spore is finally going to land here, is going to put that Tyranitar to sleep. So that first turn was unable to do what it does best, but afterwards it's just like, hey, I'm back. There was no flinches. Actually, I think pretty necessary Endure from that Lycanroc, because you really need to make sure you weren't knocked out this turn.
Well, I mean, it's not really going to be able to accomplish anything either way, because there are still 2 Pokemon that are packing priority on the field, so it's not going to get to move regardless of whether it's Mach Punch or Shadow Sneak is the other one. But I think this turn 1 from Hayley is going to haunt her a little bit. because I think she let Brian off the hook by not Terra Blasting the Breloom slot.
And Pelipper actually going to come into play here in place of that Lichen Rock. So going to rewrite that that Weather herself. As Mach Punch from Breloom goes into that Pelipper, just does a little bit of damage. Play rough from Mimikyu goes into that Tyranitar. Tyranitar going to have to take it here. Mimikyu losing again some more HP from the Life Orb. Tyranitar staying asleep this turn. Honestly, just, you know, kind of a rough spot for Tyranitar, really.
And now Breloom gets to put Pelipper to sleep, and we get to do the whole thing again here. So yeah, that turn one like could have gone much differently, but the point that we're at in the game right now, I think with like a reasonable wake from Tyranitar, like if it gets to wake up here and do some damage to either of these Pokemon, I think you feel okay about it. But the other tricky thing is that the Pokemon in the back is Lycanroc, and both Pokemon in the field right now have priority, so it's going to be tough to like find a position for Lycanroc to really like do anything.
Yeah, and Breloom going to go for that Terrasilize just to make sure that it doesn't get hit by super effective damage from either Terra Blast or from a Hurricane, as Tyranitar actually does go down this turn thanks to a player of Mimikyu losing some of that HP again thanks to the Life Orb. But Spore from Breloom is going to negate anything Pelipper might do thanks to the fact that it will put it to sleep. Pelipper going to take that necessary sleep turn, and again, I don't actually think we saw it do anything last game, so now all we really have is that Lycanroc and whatever other Pokemon that Hayley might have in the back. So either way, actually, you're still kind of in a rough spot where Breloom is still just going to do what it does and just put things to sleep.
Yeah, I don't think anything besides Lycanroc. She seems like she's been disinclined from bringing Palafin, which means that like nothing in the back other than Lycanroc is actually going to be faster than Breloom, and like I was just saying, it's already pinned by like either one of these Pokemon. It's like a Shadow Sneak plus Bullet Seed, or like a Mach Punch plus a Play Rough, whatever you feel like is going to be the optimal way to distribute your damages. And really this Breloom is just a menace, right?
Yeah, so Mimikyu just going to tap that 1 HP left down with a Shadow Sneak, so Lycanroc going to go down on this turn. Unfortunately for Hayley, as Breloom is just going to be free to just click that Bullet Seed, go into that Pelipper. Maybe it might matter if it only hits like that 2 or 3 times, but if Pelipper can wake up, you might be in a different spot. Yeah, only hits 2 times there with that Bullet Seed. Pelipper does wake up on this turn. Is actually setting up Tailwind now here for Hayley. So is actually going to be able to at least just, you know, keep that out. But Iron Hands is going to come out onto the field, the last Pokemon here for her. And is going to activate that Quark Drive with that booster energy, so that attack is going to go up a little bit here. Still kind of in a rough spot because you still have to worry about that Breloom just putting things to sleep for you.
Well, with Tailwind up, it doesn't get to put anything to sleep anymore. I think it's probably in Hurricane range, and then something from Iron Hands is probably going to take a knockout as well. But the probably more pressing issue is that it's going to be really hard to get through, like to deal enough damage to Mimikyu before it knocks everything out, because Disguise is still up. And especially with Pelipper in the back, like, I don't know, we're going to have to count Tailwind turns because it's important. So here's turn 1 Tailwind. Mimikyu's going to go for Play Rough. And it's
that's a lot of damage.
That's in Shadow Sneak range though, so maybe it does not even matter.
Yeah, so the Iron Hands took a lot of damage there. Actually, still gonna have to take recoil damage now from that Wild Charge as well. So Disguise for Mimikyu is gonna break here. Is gonna have to take a little bit of HP damage from that. Pelipper is gonna come out onto the field, and it's Pelipper versus Pelipper in some ways, but that Play Rough did so much damage, like you said. It's really just like Shadow Sneak and knock out the
Sneak
Iron
plus
Hands.
Hurricane, yeah.
And from there, you can't really.
Yeah, I don't really know that there's a way to play around it.
Yeah.
No, I don't think so. I think that might just be it. Yeah, I think maybe no.
Yeah, there's the Shadow Seek from Mimikyu going into the Iron Hands, gonna pick up a knockout here.
Yeah, so I think here you go for the Hurricane, and then you probably have to hope for like some hacks, like you Hurricane the Pelipper. You hope for a Hurricane Confusion, and then you have to hope for like Play Roughness next turn. So that's probably correct targeting.
Oh, there's one of those things. So if it doesn't break through this confusion for Brian's Pelipper, Hayley is still in it. But so this Pelipper is actually able to land the Hurricane here. Yeah, that was
today.
That was one of those like, oh, will it?
Not
won't it?
Today. Yeah, so there was a possibility with like a Play Rough miss that next turn you get the opportunity to Hurricane, but not quite. And ultimately, a very Breloom dominated match. where Brian definitely got like favorable sleep turns, I think, especially in game one, but really I don't know, there was just again, especially in game one, there wasn't really any pressure on the Breloom to stop it from just like clicking Spore all the time. And when your whole team goes to sleep, like eventually you're gonna get some good sleep turns. So
yeah, it's just also like one of those rough things where it's just like, well, what do you do after Breloom puts you to sleep? You're just like nothing.
You kind of just have to hope. Yeah, I mean, there are some ways that you can sort of play around it if you're able to like position so that if something happens that you wake up and you get something else onto the field on the same turn, that you're like pressuring the Breloom. But it's tough to kind of like make plays when you're asleep, knowing that there's like X% chance that you could just stay asleep and your plan is over.
It's just rough, right? Like,
but yeah, Breloom is one of those Pokemon that's very annoying to deal with, and if you don't like respect it in team building, then it has the potential to just sort of like dominate a matchup like that. And I'm not saying that you should need to respect it in team building, because I'm not convinced it's very
expect
like,
it every
good,
now and then that
yeah,
it might happen.
Some sort of like niche game plan that you can default to on the off chance that it does what just happened.
Yeah, it's like Amoonguss but more offensively scary. So
and faster, I think, is the big thing.
Well, it's not hard to be faster than Amoonguss sometimes.
That's true.
So, but we will see you guys for our final match soon. As soon as we figure out who our finalists are. So for sure, one of them is Brian. You'll see him again, and you'll see that Breloom putting things to sleep.
Hope he brings Bundle next time.
Cross your fingers. We still haven't seen the Iron Bundle. All we really saw was like Iron Hands, Roaring Moon, and Slitherwings.
Oh, there was the one Slitherwing.
Slitherwing. So, but we will see you guys for the finals match as soon as we get our last finalist. So don't go anywhere unless you're gonna refill your water or snacks or food. So, yeah. Bye.